So now I'm going to show you where our overnight hosts stay. And they stay just down the hall here from this Noah's Ark room in what is our chapel. And I make sure that the guests know where the overnight hosts are, but the overnight host can also make sure that the guests know where they are. So this is our chapel, and we usually have 2 mattresses set up. And here is our overnight host, Betsy Holfelter, to show you some things about being an overnight host.
Hi, and thank you for considering being an overnight host. As an overnight host, you have a couple of primary responsibilities. First and foremost is just to make the guests feel welcome and at home at Bower Hill. And second is to be an emergency contact here at the church through the evening in case something were to happen. So overnight hosts are asked to arrive between 8 and 8:15, and usually the first thing I do is come in and drop off my stuff. And as you can see, there will be a mattress set up for you. There will be actually 2. And if you're a family and you want to include your children, please let us know that, and we can arrange to have extra mattresses so that everyone can have a mattress for the evening to sleep. I will mention that you should bring your own bedding. So typically a sleeping bag works well. Please bring your own pillow. If you feel more comfortable and want to bring twin sheets, that works as well. And sometimes it depends on the time of year and how warm it might be or how cold it might be as well. One word of caution on these mattresses: when you come in, they should be blown up, but sometimes they lose a little bit of air throughout the week. If that happens, you will have a pump. And it's as simple as taking the mattress. The hardest thing is finding an outlet, but there's an outlet right over here, and there's a pump. And if you just undo the plug and put the nozzle in and turn it on, you get a little more air to your mattress. The most important thing is to make sure that the plug is pushed all the way in, or you might end up on the floor in the middle of the night, and we don't want that to happen to you. Currently, the mattresses are fairly comfortable, so it should be a good evening for you. I wanted to mention another thing about the chapel. I think we were volunteering with Family Promise for almost 2 years till we realized there's actually air conditioning in here. So if you happen to be an overnight host during the summer months and it's a hot day, the chapel does get the afternoon sun, and it can get quite warm in here. So feel free to turn on the air conditioning in the chapel if you would like. The control is over here. We ask that you not putz around with the temperature, but there's a little button here. It says System Cool Off Heat. All you need to do is turn it from off to cool. And if you give it a couple seconds, it will kick on, and hopefully it'll be a more comfortable experience for you for the evening then. One other thing I wanted to say to you in the chapel is that there is a binder, and it's called Family Promise, and it is full of all kinds of good information and instructions on volunteering. So this is just a really good reference tool for you should you need to refer to anything during your overnight stay. Two other things before we leave the chapel. Just as a reminder, if you have turned on the air conditioning, please be sure to turn it off before you leave the church the next morning. And also, I mentioned about the mattress and the pump. Family Promise seems to be moving towards mattresses, a new brand that have the pump already built into the mattress itself. And that's as simple as flipping on an on switch and it inflates. So I just wanted to mention that you might see a slightly different type of mattress. So once you have your things set in here and you're comfortable and drop them off, it's time to go down and meet the guests. So let's go down to the common area where most likely you will find them. So go down the hallway. Past the Noah's Ark room, which Jean showed you before, and down the steps. part of the church that a lot of our church members don't even know about. And here we have arrived at the lounge, which is the common area that the families can congregate and enjoy. So come on inside.
So welcome to the common area. This is an area that all the families can hang out in. We've got toys, we've got a pool table over there that I'll show you. We also have a television. Usually by the time the guests get here, they've already figured out how to use this, but let me show you how to use the TV. We also have a video DVD player that they're welcome to use. And we have some videos, family appropriate videos for them to use. So the TV does not have a remote, but the analog digital box does. So this is the remote for the analog digital box. Push the box thing. The green light comes on. Turn on the power to the TV. And we have TV. We also have Wi-Fi here at Bower Hill, and the code for connecting to that is right there on the wall. So let me give you a little tour of the common room. This is an area for folks to hang out. We have something for little kids. We have our own refrigerator. This shelf usually has a microwave and a coffee maker on top of it. They're inside here right now. This has various sundry kind of kitchen things. We also have a pool table that everyone's welcome to use. The balls are in here. We just kind of put them away so they don't end up all over the floor. We have a bunch of toys and things for folks to play with, and other things for kids.
Next, I want to show you the art room. For overnight hosts who arrive, oftentimes you will see one of our volunteers, Sarah, who has used this space to create some wonderful art projects with our guests, and they just love doing it. In addition to the art projects that are created here, there are some other very important features to this room that I wanted to show you. First of all, this is where we keep a number of our extra supplies. So in this file cabinet, we will have all kinds of extra sets of sheets. This is important because oftentimes, as you can imagine, particularly with little kids, there are accidents that happen and they need a new set of sheets. So this is where you can come to find them. Particularly in the winter months, guests get cold and they ask for extra blankets. If that's the case, just come over to this closet, open it up, and inside you will find all kinds of extra blankets. There's a bin here that says Family Promise towels, if extra towels are needed. This is also where some extra mattresses are kept. And I wanted to explain, sometimes the mattresses have what we call a failure. And that's the case where there might be some damage to the mattress, and even with extra pumping, it just does not stay inflated. If that happens, the most important thing to know is that you need to send that damaged mattress in the van the next morning as the guests return to the Crafton house. And you need to notify the Crafton house that a damaged mattress is coming, because they will send a new mattress that can be used the next evening. So that's important to note. And it's all explained in the reference manual that you'll find up in the chapel as well. Another thing while we're over in this corner of the room, we have an emergency landline phone. If you need to make an emergency call and you don't have a cell phone or there is no cell coverage for some reason, simply pick up the receiver, press one of the 3 buttons that have the phone numbers indicated on them, dial 1, and then whatever phone number you would like to make, and you will be connected. Another important thing to be aware of is our first aid kits. Over in this corner we have a couple of first aid kits. One has over-the-counter medicines in it, so you'll find things like Tylenol and Advil. We have some children's Tylenol, we have Pepto-Bismol, there's a thermometer, some Pedialyte, some Imodium. If a guest asks you for an Advil or a Tylenol, you should come and get it, and then they should administer it to their children or themselves. Another thing you'll find in here are Band-Aids and various wraps in case there's a little cut or something that happens on the playground. We're also set up for that. In the case of a true emergency, it's important to note that you should call 911. And another thing that is really important is that even though we are so close to St. Clair Hospital, it is a family promise rule that we do not transport guests to the hospital. So an ambulance needs to be called, or 911, and then you should immediately follow that up with a phone call to the Family Promise staff person who is on call for that evening to let them know what has taken place. Lastly, I want to mention just a couple of things in terms of being an overnight host. In the morning, it's really important that the van leaves on time, because oftentimes that's connected to people leaving for work and people leaving for school, and you don't want people to be late. So one of the most important things as an overnight host is to make sure that the families are up and ready for that van departure. Typically during the weekday, the van leaves Bower Hill at 6 in the morning. Oftentimes on the weekend, that's relaxed a little bit and the van tends to leave at 7 in the morning. So it's important to let the guests know what time the van leaves. And then what I do as an overnight host is I start going around to the rooms about 20 minutes before the van is set to depart, and just listen to make sure I hear people up and about. If not, I tap on the door and just say, hey, just want to make sure you're up because the van will be leaving in about 20 minutes. This isn't always the most comfortable thing to do, and sometimes you might be greeted with not a real pleasant smile, but it's really important that the people are up, the guests are up and they're on the van, and that the van departs on time. Overall, I think it's a wonderful experience. I've thoroughly enjoyed interacting with the guests, and I hope that you would have a good experience as an overnight host as well. Once the guests are on the van and the van has departed, your role as an overnight host is almost over. One thing I like you to do is to circle back through each of the rooms, poke your head in and make sure the windows are shut, the lights are off. Then return to each of the bathrooms and make sure the toilets have been flushed and the faucets are turned off. Lights in all the common areas are turned off. And then as you leave the church, please make sure the door is locked. And we thank you so much for your help with this important ministry.